For the young people that haven't seen Office Space, this is a scene in Office Space where this guy who works in a cubicle is being told what to do, and he pretty much hates his job. And we work with hundreds of schools across the country, and this isn't an unusual picture when you go into schools or administrative buildings. Not all schools in administrative, but many. And part of the reason is through programs like NCLB, we've been in a compliance mode for a very long time, and we've been told what to do, and we've kind of sucked out the creativity that teachers and school leaders have in the profession of teaching and school leadership. So, oops, there we go. Our job, Education Elements, and I'm the founder and CEO. I started the company in early 2011. Prior to that, I sold another company in online education, sold it to Edison Schools, stayed on as executive vice president, and then had the opportunity to leave. And I noticed that school systems needed to change. And as a result of that, we started rethinking what the school day might look like and what classrooms might look like. And part of that came through how we work every day in the companies that we work in today. It just doesn't look like cubicles and offices anymore. Yet we embody cubicles and offices in schools and in administrative buildings. So our goal is kind of to solve some of the biggest problems districts have. And it turns out some of the biggest problems is getting people to do what we want them to do as leaders. Because schools and school systems are about people, not about products. It's about communities, and it's about how to move people's mindsets in communities where they don't have exposure to all the things that are going on here at these events because they're rural or they don't have opportunities to travel to Salt Lake City or other places. It's just impossible for them to get some of this information. And so really the biggest problems are about people. Today, in fact, I got a message from one of our clients in Charleston. There's a strike with 200 teachers that aren't showing up to work today because they were reviewed by a metric that they didn't know about. So these kinds of things happen all the time in schools all across the country, and we wonder why we're not improving the achievement gap in districts across the country because it's a people problem. The other problem is we just don't have enough time for all the kids, right? We have 45 minutes to an hour, even 90 minutes in some classrooms, and we just can't cover all of those kids, and that's where technology can come into play, providing immediate feedback to kids, right? And there is research that shows that immediate feedback to any learner produces exponentially better results, right? Because you're not stagnating in the learning process. So, however, in school systems, when you're trying to launch these programs, like technology programs, trying to embed that into a classroom is near impossible because they have 25 other priorities that are being told what to do. So, in kind of the 7 years I've been doing this, I would say over 75% of the initiatives that are listed in district strategic plans aren't being implemented today. And when they are implemented, by the time they even start an implementation, the leadership or the superintendent is gone. And we all know that there's high turnover in school districts. So we think that there's this huge chasm between central office and the school building. And we feel our job is to help bridge that through designing activities and support systems that allow districts to bridge that gap a little bit better. Instead of moving from strategies to usage, we're really thinking about how to align strategies to values that schools have. And we try to figure out those values by working with the schools directly through workshops and design thinking exercises that allow them to encompass these ideas. A lot of it is based on school design, but there's also little things like having teachers being able to select the right product. Like there are districts today that I know of that are purchasing 50% more licenses of products that they're not utilizing, and it's just sitting there. There are districts today that have textbooks that aren't unwrapped in warehouses today. There are districts today that are still buying scientific calculators that aren't being used. And so the amount of money that's being wasted through just a lack of kind of processes and awareness by people and decision making is substantial. So while we do a lot of consulting with the districts, and I would say 80 to 90% of our district work is with consulting, We do have a product called Touchpoint, and Touchpoint just makes it easy to provide transparency around projects. It sits somewhere between Trello and Asana in terms of project management, but it provides very education-specific kind of cartridges and language so that educators can respond to it a little bit better. The problem with Trello and Asana is that Trello is too loosey-goosey for an organization that doesn't have processes, and Asana is very manual labor intensive, right? And none of the language there is aligned to what an educator can understand, which are schools, districts, students, things like that. So in terms of the number of districts and where we work with some of the most recognizable districts across the country, over 100 of them. We serve over 100,000 students, 500 schools, and we also work with major convening organizations like the Gates Next Generation Learning Challenge Grants, Digital Promise, and the Lexington Institute. Our path to growth, we've been around for 7 years. We've been growing at over 60% CAGR per year, which is substantial growth. We have offices in DC. Our average size of contract is over $350,000. We've signed, in the last 2 months, we've signed two $1.5 million contracts in Alaska. And the way we're going to expand and grow is we're going to acquire more consulting companies that really deal with kind of the top level strategy. And then we're going to build more rainmakers within our own organization. So if you have any questions, my contact information is here. This is a picture of a district called Mentor School District we were just at through Digital Promise. And these are the types of schools that we're imagining every school should be in the country. Thank you.